Marcus Chen's fingers drummed against the polished mahogany conference table as his chief financial officer droned on about quarterly projections. The rhythmic tapping drew irritated glances from board members, but he paid them no mind. 20 years of building Chen Tech Enterprises had earned him the right to a few eccentricities. His phone buzzed silently against his thigh, a welcome distraction from the mind-numbing presentation. Marcus discreetly glanced at the screen, expecting another merger proposal or investment opportunity. Instead, the message stopped his drumming fingers mid-tap. "James, I hate asking but I'm desperate. Emily's formula ran out, and I won't get paid until next week. Could you help? Even $50 would mean everything right now. I'm sorry to bother you." The unfamiliar number carried a local area code. Marcus stared at the message, something tugging at his memory. The name James, his middle name, one he hadn't used since college. A name only a handful of people knew. "Mr. Chen? Your thoughts on the projection models?" Marcus looked up to find 12 expectant faces turned toward him. He cleared his throat, straightening his bespoke suit jacket. "Continue with the conservative estimates. We'll revisit the aggressive targets next quarter." The CFO nodded, launching into another series of graphs, but Marcus's attention had already drifted back to the message. He opened his banking app, examining the sender's number. No previous transactions. No recognition. Yet something about the desperation in those words caught him, reminded him of another time, another life, when he'd been the one counting dollars until payday. His executive assistant slipped into the room, placing a fresh espresso at his elbow. The steam carried the rich aroma of single-origin beans, specially imported for his office. The contrast wasn't lost on him, sitting in his climate-controlled boardroom, sipping $1,000 coffee, while somewhere in the city, a mother worried about feeding her child. The meeting dragged on for another hour. Marcus barely registered the discussions of market expansion and profit margins. His mind kept returning to the text, to the name James, to a period of his life he'd almost forgotten. 25 years ago, he'd been James Chen, scholarship student at State University, working nights at a convenience store to afford ramen noodles and textbooks. He'd changed it to Marcus when he started his company. Marcus sounded more powerful, more CEO-worthy. The transformation had been complete: new name, new wardrobe, new life. As the board members filed out, Marcus remained seated, scrolling through his phone. The message hadn't been meant for him, clearly a wrong number, a desperate shot in the dark meant for another James. Yet he couldn't shake it. He pulled up his browser, typing in the number. Social media revealed a Sarah Mitchell, registered nurse at City General Hospital. Recent posts spoke of long shifts, single motherhood, and a 6-month-old daughter named Emily. No mention of financial struggles, pride, perhaps, or the desire to maintain a brave face. The next text came as he was stepping into his private elevator. "James, please. I know things ended badly between us, but Emily needs her formula. I picked up extra shifts but it's not enough. I wouldn't ask if I had any other option." Marcus felt an unexpected tightness in his chest. She thought he was her ex, someone who had walked away from his own child. The situation struck uncomfortably close to home. His own marriage had ended 5 years ago, no children, thankfully, but enough bitterness to last a lifetime. Catherine had accused him of caring more about his company than their relationship. She hadn't been entirely wrong. The elevator descended smoothly to the private parking garage. His driver held the door of the Bentley open, but Marcus waved him off. "Take the afternoon, James. I'll drive myself today." The irony of his driver's name didn't escape him. Instead of heading home to his penthouse, Marcus found himself driving through the city's eastern district. The streets here were narrower, the buildings wore decades of neglect, and chain-link fences protected patches of withered grass. He'd grown up in a neighborhood just like this, before scholarships and determination had paved his way out. He parked outside City General Hospital, watching healthcare workers in scrubs hurry through the sliding doors. Somewhere inside, Sarah Mitchell was probably moving between patients, counting the hours until payday, wondering if her daughter's father would finally respond. Marcus pulled up his banking app again. A few taps would solve her immediate problem. But something held him back, not reluctance to help, but a nagging sense that there was more to be done here. He'd built his fortune by seeing beyond quick fixes to lasting solutions. Opening his contact list, he called his head of human resources. "Linda, I need information on our healthcare provider benefits, particularly regarding dependent care and emergency assistance programs." The call lasted 30 minutes. By the end, Linda probably thought her boss had lost his mind, but a plan was taking shape. Chanteka's healthcare package was competitive, but it could be better. Much better. Another call to his legal team set things in motion. New policies would take time, but for now. Marcus composed a reply to Sarah's text, "Wrong number, but I want to help. There's a 24-hour pharmacy at 5th and Pine. Give them your name. Formula will be waiting, no charge. This isn't charity, it's an investment in your daughter's future." He contacted the pharmacy next, arranging payment and delivery of 6 months' worth of formula. Then, on impulse, he added a package of diapers and some basic necessities. The total barely registered against his daily coffee budget. The response came quickly, "I don't understand. Who is this? Why would you help strangers?" Marcus smiled, remembering a convenience store owner who'd let him take home expired sandwiches during college. "Because 25 years ago, someone helped me when I needed it. The only condition is that someday, when you can, help someone else." He turned off his phone before she could reply. Tomorrow, he would start restructuring company policies, establishing emergency funds for employees, expanding childcare benefits. The board would resist, they always did when profits were threatened, but he hadn't become a billionaire by backing down from challenges. For now, though, Marcus Chen, who had once been James Chen from the East Side, pointed his Bentley toward home. The setting sun painted the city skyline in shades of gold, and for the first time in years, he felt something shift inside him, a crack in the armor of success, letting in something that felt surprisingly like hope. His phone would later show 3 missed calls from his ex-wife Catherine. She was probably calling about the charity gala next month, another obligation, another performance of civil interaction. He'd attend, of course, maintain appearances. But now he had a different project in mind, one that might actually make a difference. A mistaken text message had reminded him of who he used to be, and maybe, just maybe, who he could become again. Not just Marcus Chen, billionaire CEO, but someone who remembered what it meant to need help, and more importantly, what it meant to give it. The Bentley purred through the darkening streets, carrying him toward home and tomorrow's challenges. But his mind stayed in the Eastern District, with a nurse named Sarah and her daughter Emily, and all the other stories hidden in the city's shadows, waiting for someone to listen, to care, to act. Tomorrow would bring board meetings and balance sheets, mergers and acquisitions. But tonight, a mother would feed her child, and somewhere in the vast tapestry of urban life, a small act of kindness would ripple outward, touching lives in ways even a billionaire couldn't predict. Sarah Mitchell's fingers trembled as she stared at her phone screen in the hospital break room. The mysterious response to her desperate text had left her stunned. 6 months of formula, it seemed impossible, too good to be true. Yet the pharmacy had confirmed it, the supplies already being delivered to her small apartment. She refreshed her social media feed, hoping to find some clue about her anonymous benefactor. Instead, she saw another post from her former college roommate, "Another day in paradise. #Maldives life #luxury travel." The contrast between their lives had never felt more stark. The break room's fluorescent lights flickered, casting harsh shadows across the worn linoleum floor. 12 hours into her 16-hour shift, Sarah's scrubs bore the evidence of a particularly challenging day in the pediatric ward. Coffee stains competed with antiseptic smudges, and her comfortable but worn nursing shoes had long since stopped providing much comfort. Her phone chimed again, not another message from the mysterious stranger, but a reminder from her landlord about the upcoming rent increase. Sarah closed her eyes, remembering simpler times when she and James had shared dreams of a medical practice together. Now he was somewhere in Seattle, building his surgical career, while she juggled single motherhood and night shifts. Mitchell. Code blue in 507. The overhead speaker crackled, yanking her back to reality. Sarah shoved her phone into her pocket, muscle memory taking over as she sprinted down the corridor. For the next 20 minutes, nothing existed except the rhythm of compressions, the hiss of oxygen, and the determined efforts of the medical team. They saved the patient, an elderly man with pneumonia, but the adrenaline left her hands shaking. Walking back to the break room, Sarah passed the hospital's executive wing. Through the glass walls, she glimpsed the hospital administrator in his tailored suit, gesturing at a presentation screen. The scene reminded her of the mysterious texter, someone wealthy enough to casually spend hundreds on a stranger's baby formula. What kind of person did that? Her co-worker, Rita, nudged her with an elbow. Earth to Sarah. You've been staring at that wall for 5 minutes. Everything okay with Emily? Sarah managed a smile. Yeah, actually. Something incredible happened. She found herself sharing the story of the wrong number and the unexpected help. Rita's eyes widened with each detail. Girl, that's some guardian angel you've got. But be careful, nothing comes free these days. The warning should have worried her, but Sarah couldn't shake the sincerity in that last message, because 25 years ago, someone helped me when I needed it. There was something raw and honest there, something that resonated with her own struggles. Her shift ended at midnight. The night air carried the first hint of autumn as Sarah walked to her car, a 15-year-old Honda with temperamental air conditioning. The hospital's parking lot offered a panoramic view of the city skyline, where glass towers stretched toward the stars. Somewhere in those gleaming buildings, corporate titans made decisions that affected thousands of lives. She wondered if any of them ever thought about single mothers counting pennies for baby formula. The drive home took her past Chintec Tower, its illuminated logo a beacon in the night sky. She'd read about Marcus Chen in local business magazines, the billionaire CEO who'd built an empire from nothing. The articles painted him as brilliant but distant, more comfortable with spreadsheets than people. Tonight, though, the building's lights seemed warmer somehow, less intimidating. Sarah's apartment building sat on the edge of the Eastern District, where rent was still barely affordable for a nurse's salary. The security door stuck as usual, requiring a practiced hip check to open. The babysitter, Mrs. Rodriguez from downstairs, was dozing on the couch when Sarah entered. Emily was an angel, Mrs. Rodriguez reported, gathering her things. The new formula agrees with her, no fussing at all. Sarah felt tears prick her eyes as she looked at the stack of formula cans on her kitchen counter. The mysterious benefactor hadn't just provided formula, they'd chosen the exact brand that worked best for Emily's sensitive stomach. How had they known? Later, after Emily's 2 a.m. feeding, Sarah sat in her second-hand rocking chair, watching her daughter sleep. The moon cast silver patterns across the nursery floor, and for the first time in months, Sarah felt like she could breathe. No more rationing formula, no more lying awake calculating pennies. Her phone sat on the windowsill, the stranger's message still open. An investment in your daughter's future. Not charity, investment. The distinction mattered somehow. In her mind's eye, Sarah saw herself years ago, accepting a scholarship to nursing school. Someone had invested in her future then, too. The next morning brought a surprise email from hospital administration. They were implementing new policies, expanded childcare benefits, emergency assistance programs, flexible scheduling for parents. The memo mentioned a corporate partnership, but provided no specifics. In the daylight, Sarah's neighborhood revealed its quiet dignity. Children played in postage stamp yards, elderly couples tended small gardens, and neighbors greeted each other by name. It wasn't the glittering world of downtown, but it was real, alive with stories of struggle and resilience. Mrs. Rodriguez waved from her window as Sarah left for her shift. "Did you hear? They're opening a new childcare center at the hospital. 24 hours, subsidized rates for staff. It's like a miracle." Sarah thought about the mysterious text, the formula delivery, and now these changes at work. Coincidence seemed increasingly unlikely. But who had that kind of influence? And why help her, of all people? The morning news played on her car radio, Marcus Chen announcing a new corporate responsibility initiative, focusing on healthcare accessibility and family support. His voice was surprisingly warm, lacking the cold efficiency she'd expected from a billionaire CEO. At a red light, Sarah found herself studying the Chen Tech Tower against the morning sky. The sunlight transformed it from last night's beacon into a mirror, reflecting the city back to itself. Somewhere in that reflection, two worlds were starting to overlap, the realm of corporate power and the daily struggles of ordinary people. Her phone buzzed with another message from the unknown number. "Check your email. There's a position opening in the pediatric department at Chinteka's new medical center. Better hours, on-site childcare. Your experience would be valuable there. Remember, investment, not charity." Sarah's hands tightened on the steering wheel. The light turned green, and she drove toward the hospital, toward another long shift in the pediatric ward. But something had changed. The distance between her world and those gleaming towers felt smaller somehow, bridged by an act of kindness that began with a wrong number. In her pocket, her phone carried a message she'd composed but hadn't sent. "Thank you for reminding me that walls between worlds aren't always as solid as they seem." Maybe tomorrow she'd find the courage to send it. For now, she had patients to care for, and somewhere in the city, a guardian angel with an understanding of both struggle and success was watching over her family's future. The morning sun caught the windows of Chen Tech Tower, sending rays of light across the city like bridges between different worlds. Sarah smiled, realizing that sometimes the greatest distances aren't measured in miles, but in understanding, and sometimes, all it takes to cross them is a simple text message. Marcus Chen sat in his dimly lit home office, surrounded by holographic screens displaying Sarah Mitchell's life. Not in a sinister way, he'd only accessed public records and information, driven by an inexplicable need to understand the woman who'd accidentally entered his life. His AI assistant had compiled a comprehensive profile. Sarah Mitchell, 32, graduated top of her class from State University's nursing program. Former president of the Student Healthcare Alliance. Published research on pediatric care innovations. A career trajectory that had promised brilliance until personal circumstances intervened. The screens cast a blue glow across Marcus's face as he scrolled through her professional accomplishments. Employee of the Month at City General 6 times in the past year. Perfect attendance record despite having a newborn. Glowing patient reviews. Yet her salary barely covered basic expenses in a city where rent increased faster than wages. He rubbed his temples, remembering his own journey. 25 years ago, he'd been sleeping on a friend's couch, coding through the night while surviving on convenience store sandwiches. A chance encounter with a venture capitalist in that same store had changed everything. The man had seen potential in the scruffy college student's app ideas. The clock on his wall, a rare mechanical piece in his otherwise ultra-modern home, ticked past midnight. Marcus opened his secure messaging system, the one he used for sensitive business communications. Sarah's latest message waited there. The hospital announced new benefits today. I can't help but wonder if you're connected to these changes. Whoever you are, you've started something bigger than formula and diapers. His fingers hovered over the keyboard. The smart response would be to maintain distance, let his anonymous intervention fade into a happy memory. Instead, he found himself typing. Change happens when someone notices what needs fixing. You've helped me notice. Outside his floor-to-ceiling windows, the city sparkled like scattered diamonds on black velvet. His own reflection stared back at him, perfectly tailored even at midnight, not a gray hair out of place. The image of success he'd carefully crafted over decades. A different screen showed Sarah's social media profile picture: scrubs, messy ponytail, genuine smile. Her latest post mentioned picking up extra weekend shifts to start a college fund for Emily. The contrast with his own lifestyle felt like a physical weight on his chest. Marcus pulled up Chanteka's financial reports. The company's charitable foundation handled millions in donations annually, all carefully calculated for maximum tax benefit. But how much actually reached people like Sarah? How many other single parents struggled while his board members debated profit margins? His phone buzzed, Catherine, his ex-wife, texting about the upcoming charity gala. The theme is Breaking Barriers. Wear blue. And please try to smile this year. Marcus snorted. Breaking barriers while sipping $1,000 champagne, the irony wasn't lost on him. He'd played this game for years, attending galas, making speeches about corporate responsibility, writing checks that made for good press releases. A notification popped up: Sarah had just clocked out of her night shift. His security system showed her walking to her car in the hospital parking lot, shoulders slumped with exhaustion. The same lot where he'd parked his Bentley earlier that week, feeling like a visitor from another planet. He opened his company's HR database. The new medical center project needed staff, experienced nurses, especially those with research backgrounds. Sarah's credentials were perfect. But offering her a job directly might seem manipulative, an abuse of power. Another screen showed Emily's birth certificate. Father's name, James Anderson, occupation, surgical resident. A quick search revealed his current position at a prestigious Seattle hospital. No mention of a 6-month-old daughter in his social media. No child support payments in Sarah's financial records. Marcus's hands clenched. He'd been called ruthless in business, but abandoning your own child? That struck a nerve he didn't know he had. He pulled up his personal email, creating a new anonymous account. A few carefully worded messages to Seattle's medical board expressing concerns about Dr. Anderson's ethical conduct. No. That wasn't his battle to fight. Instead, he focused on what he could change. The new medical center's staffing plan needed revision. Childcare facilities could be expanded. Salary structures could be adjusted. Small changes that could make huge differences in lives like Sarah's. His AI assistant chimed softly, "Sir, you have a board meeting in 6 hours. Shall I prepare the usual morning briefing?" Marcus glanced at the waiting reports, then back at Sarah's profile. No. Instead, prepare a comprehensive analysis of employee benefits across all major tech companies. Focus on family support programs and healthcare provisions. The AI paused, its algorithms detecting the deviation from routine. "Sir, the board expects a quarterly earnings review." "They'll get that too. But first, they're going to learn about investment in human capital." He spent the next hour drafting a new proposal. By the time the sun rose, casting long shadows across his desk, Marcus had outlined changes that would ripple through his entire corporate structure. His phone buzzed again, another message from Sarah: "I've been offered a position at the new medical center. The salary, it would change everything for us." "This isn't just about formula anymore, is it?" Marcus smiled, watching the dawn paint the city in shades of possibility. "Sometimes the smallest connections reveal the biggest opportunities for change," he replied. He stood, stretching muscles stiff from hours at his desk. His reflection showed shadows under his eyes, but something else too, a spark he hadn't seen since his startup days, when changing the world had seemed not just possible but inevitable. The mechanical clock struck 6, its chimes echoing through the empty penthouse. In a few hours, he'd walk into a boardroom and challenge everything his company had become. There would be resistance, arguments about shareholder value and market expectations. But for now, Marcus Chen, Billionaire CEO and accidental guardian angel, watched the city wake up. Somewhere out there, a nurse was driving home to her daughter, carrying hope instead of desperation. Sometimes the greatest investments weren't listed on any balance sheet. His AI assistant spoke again. "Sir, shall I send the car around?" Marcus looked at his Bentley's keys, then reached for his coat. "No. I think I'll take the subway today. It's time I saw the city from a different perspective." The elevator descended, carrying him toward a day that would reshape more than just his company. Sometimes the biggest changes started with the smallest connections, a wrong number, a moment of kindness, a reminder of where you came from and who you might still become. The headline splashed across the business section: Chentech announces revolutionary employee benefits program. Beneath it, analysts debated the impact on quarterly earnings, while social media exploded with reactions from employees and industry observers alike. Marcus Chen stood at his office window, watching protests gather outside Chentech Tower. Not against his company, for once, but in support of it. Signs demanded other corporations follow suit: fair benefits for all families, support working parents, healthcare is a right. His phone hadn't stopped buzzing since the board meeting. Half the messages were from angry shareholders concerned about profit margins. The other half were from CEOs of competing companies, trying to understand how he'd managed to push such dramatic changes through his board. The truth was simpler than any of them imagined: a wrong number, a desperate mother, and a conscience that refused to stay buried under billions. His assistant entered with the morning papers. "Sir, your ex-wife is here. She's quite insistent." Catherine stormed in before he could respond, elegant as ever in Chanel, her face flushed with anger. "Have you lost your mind, Marcus? The foundation gala is next week, and you've just turned it into a circus. Every activist group in the city will be there, demanding their pet causes." Marcus turned from the window, studying the woman he'd once loved. Good. Maybe it's time our galas were about more than designer dresses and tax write-offs. The board is talking about removing you. 30% stock drop in one day? Over some misguided Robin Hood complex? He gestured to the crowds below. "Look down there, Catherine. Really look. Those are our employees, their families, their communities. When did we stop seeing them as people and start seeing them as line items?" Catherine's expression softened slightly. "You always had a bleeding heart under that corporate armor. But this? Universal childcare? Emergency family funds? Expanded healthcare? You're running a tech company, not a charity. I'm running a company that employs human beings. Maybe it's time we remembered that." His phone buzzed again, Sarah's number. He'd started thinking of it as hers, though she still didn't know his identity. Her message was simple: the protesters, they're calling it the Chentech Revolution. Your kindness is changing lives beyond mine. In the 2 weeks since his board meeting bombshell, the changes had cascaded through the corporate world. 3 other major tech companies had already announced similar benefit programs. A senator was drafting legislation based on Chentech's family support initiatives. His assistant appeared again. "Sir, CNN is requesting an interview. They're calling you the conscience of Silicon Valley." Marcus almost laughed at that. One act of kindness, born from a mistaken text, and suddenly he was a corporate revolutionary? But wasn't that how change always happened? Small actions, rippling outward, gathering momentum until they became waves. He turned back to Catherine, who was watching him with an expression he hadn't seen since their early days together. "You're different," she said quietly. "What happened?" "I remembered who I used to be. Before the IPO, before the billions. When a single act of kindness could change someone's whole world." The protest crowds had grown, their chants audible even 30 stories up. News helicopters circled, capturing the scene for evening broadcasts. Marcus's phone kept buzzing, board members, reporters, other CEOs. He ignored them all, focused on another message from Sarah. "The new childcare center opened today. I watched single mothers cry with relief. Whatever made you start this chain reaction, thank you." Catherine moved to stand beside him at the window. "I remember when you used to talk about changing the world. Before quarterly reports and shareholder value became your religion." "It's not too late to change," he replied, thinking of Sarah and Emily, of all the other families struggling to survive in a system designed to overlook them. His assistant appeared again. "Sir, the board has called an emergency meeting for tomorrow morning." "Perfect timing," Marcus smiled, pulling up a document on his tablet. "I've been meaning to show them phase 2 of our reforms." Catherine raised an eyebrow. "There's more?" "Educational subsidies for employees' children. Retirement planning assistance. Mental health support programs." He paused, watching her reaction. "The things we should have been doing all along." The protesters below had started singing, an impromptu chorus of hope and determination. Marcus thought about Sarah, working her shift at the new medical center, her daughter safe in the on-site childcare facility. One connection, one moment of humanity, spawning a movement. His phone buzzed with another message, this time from an unknown number. "Mr. Chen, I represent a coalition of tech industry employees. Your actions have inspired us. We want to help spread these changes to other companies." The revolution wouldn't be televised, after all. It would be texted, tweeted, shared, and liked, spreading from one screen to another until the old ways of doing business couldn't survive the exposure to basic human decency. Catherine touched his arm gently. "The Marcus I married wanted to make a difference. Maybe he's finally back." Below, the crowds continued to grow. News vans lined the streets, reporters doing live stand-ups with Chentech Tower as their backdrop. Inside, employees worked with renewed energy, pride replacing resignation in their faces. His assistant appeared one last time. "Sir, your car is ready for the medical center opening ceremony." Marcus grabbed his coat, then paused. "Cancel the car. I'll take the subway again. Time to see these changes from ground level." As he left, Catherine called after him, "The gala next week, should I cancel it?" "No," he smiled. "But change the theme. Instead of breaking barriers, let's make it building bridges." The elevator descended, carrying him toward the crowds, toward the future he'd accidentally helped create. In his pocket, his phone buzzed with one final message from Sarah: "Whatever your reasons, you've started something beautiful. The world needs more accidental guardian angels." Marcus stepped out into the sunlight, into the cheering crowds, into a world where one wrong number could lead to everything right. The ripples of change were becoming waves, and for the first time in years, he was ready to swim rather than sink. Sarah had never been inside Chentech Tower before. The soaring atrium made her feel tiny, insignificant among the marble and glass. Her reflection in the polished floors showed a woman transformed, no longer in scrubs, but wearing a tailored suit provided by the company's professional development program. Emily cooed contentedly in her carrier, equally stylish in new clothes from the Employee Family Support Fund. The security guard smiled warmly. "Ms. Mitchell? Mr. Chen is expecting you." Her heart hammered against her ribs. The mysterious text message benefactor's identity had finally emerged through a series of connections she couldn't ignore: the formula delivery, the job offer, the sweeping corporate changes, and now this summons to meet Marcus Chen himself. The executive elevator whispered upward, smoother than any hospital lift she'd ever encountered. Sarah studied her daughter's peaceful face, remembering that desperate night 2 months ago when a wrong number had changed everything. The elevator opened directly into Marcus Chen's office, a vast space dominated by windows and subtle technology. The man himself stood with his back to her, gazing out at the city below. "Beautiful view," Sarah said, her voice steadier than she felt. He turned, and she knew instantly. The voice that had comforted her through text messages, the kindness that had sparked a corporate revolution, it all made sense now. "Welcome, Sarah," Marcus said softly. "And this must be Emily." "It was you all along," she stated, not a question but a revelation. "The formula, the job, everything." He gestured to a seating area where a baby play mat had been thoughtfully arranged. "I think we have a lot to discuss." Sarah settled Emily on the mat, watching her daughter immediately grab for the provided toys. Why the secrecy? Why not just help openly from the beginning? Marcus sat across from her, his billionaire polish at odds with the vulnerability in his expression. "Would you have accepted help if you'd known who I was? Or would you have seen it as charity from a wealthy CEO trying to feel good about himself?" She considered this, remembering his words, investment, not charity. "The media's calling you a revolutionary," she said. "Corporate America's conscience." But it all started with a wrong number. "Sometimes the universe has a better plan than we do," he smiled. "Your text message reminded me of who I used to be, before the money, before Chentech. Just another struggling student who needed help." A notification flashed on the office's smart windows, "Board meeting in 15 minutes, vote on CEO retention." Sarah's eyes widened. "They're trying to remove you? Because of the changes you've made?" "Some shareholders believe I've lost my mind. Profits are down 12% this quarter. Stock price has taken a hit." He shrugged, seemingly unconcerned. "But employee retention is up 60%. Productivity has increased 45%. And the stories, single parents who can finally afford childcare, families no longer choosing between medicine and food. But your position, your company, are meaningless if we can't use them to make a difference." He stood, straightening his tie. "Would you like to attend the board meeting? They should hear from someone whose life has been directly impacted." Sarah glanced at Emily, happily playing with her toys. "I wouldn't know what to say. Tell them about working 16-hour shifts while counting formula cans. Tell them about choosing between diapers and dinner. Make them see the human cost of their profit margins." A soft chime announced another visitor. Catherine Chen, Marcus's ex-wife, stepped into the office, dressed impeccably. Her eyes went immediately to Emily. "So this is the baby who started it all," she said, her voice warm with unexpected understanding. "Marcus told me everything. About the text, about remembering who he used to be." Sarah stood uncertainly, but Catherine waved her back down. "I'm here to support him at the board meeting. It's time someone reminded these vultures what business should really be about." Marcus checked his watch. 5 minutes. "Sarah, you don't have to." "Yes, I do," she interrupted, gathering Emily. "Someone helped me when I needed it. Now it's my turn to help someone else." They rode down together, an unlikely trio, the billionaire CEO, his elegant ex-wife, and a former night shift nurse carrying a baby who had inadvertently sparked a corporate revolution. The boardroom fell silent as they entered. 20 faces turned to stare, ranging from hostile to curious. Sarah recognized some from news coverage of the protests, the ones who'd fought hardest against Marcus's changes. "Mr. Chen," the lead director began, "this is a closed meeting." "This is Sarah Mitchell," Marcus interrupted. "And before you vote on my future, you're going to hear her story." Sarah stepped forward, Emily secure in her arms. Her voice shook at first but grew stronger as she spoke about midnight shifts and empty formula cans, about a desperate text message and an act of kindness that had cascaded into something extraordinary. You see numbers on spreadsheets, she concluded. But we're not numbers. We're people, your employees, their families, their children. Mr. Chen remembered that. Maybe it's time you did too. The room remained silent for a long moment. Then Catherine stood. As a major shareholder, I move to end this vote before it begins. My shares stand with Marcus. One by one, other board members shifted, perspectives altering as they looked at Sarah and Emily, no longer statistics but flesh and blood, hope and possibility. The lead director cleared his throat. Motion to retain Marcus Chen as CEO. All in favor? Hands raised. Not unanimous, but enough. More than enough. Later, watching the sunset from Marcus's office, Sarah composed one final text. Thank you for showing me that sometimes the biggest changes start with the smallest connections. His reply came quickly. Thank you for reminding me that success isn't measured in dollars but in lives changed. Below, the city sparkled to life, each light representing a story, a struggle, a possibility. In Sarah's arms, Emily slept peacefully, unaware that her need for formula had transformed not just her mother's life but an entire corporate culture. The wrong number that had connected their worlds would never be wrong again. Sometimes, Sarah realized, the best revolutions start not with a bang but with a simple message, sent in desperation, received with compassion, and transformed by the power of human connection into something that could change the world. Marcus stood at his window, watching the city he'd helped reshape. Ready for phase 2? He asked. Sarah smiled, remembering his words from that first text, investment, not charity. Ready, she replied. There are more lives to change. The truth had emerged, but it wasn't the end of their story. It was just the beginning of something bigger than either of them had imagined, a revolution born from a wrong number and the reminder that sometimes the greatest distances aren't measured in miles but in understanding. 1 year later, the Chen Tech Foundation Community Center opened its doors in the Eastern District. The renovated warehouse gleamed in the morning sun, its walls adorned with murals depicting scenes of hope and transformation. Above the entrance, a simple phrase caught the light, because someone helped me. Sarah stood beside Marcus on the podium, Emily balanced on her hip. The toddler, now 18 months old, waved at the gathered crowd, a mix of corporate executives, community members, and families who had benefited from what the media now called the Chen Tech effect. A year ago, Marcus began, his voice carrying across the hushed audience, a wrong number taught me the most important lesson in business. Success means nothing if it doesn't lift others up along the way. The community center represented everything that lesson had sparked: 24-hour childcare facilities, job training programs, healthcare services, and educational support. But more than that, it represented a fundamental shift in corporate philosophy that had spread far beyond Chen Tech's walls. In the front row, Catherine sat with the new board members, younger, more diverse faces that reflected the changes within the company. She caught Marcus's eye and nodded, pride evident in her expression. Their relationship had evolved too, from bitter exes to partners in transformation. Today, Sarah stepped forward to speak. We're not just opening a building. We're opening doors of opportunity. A year ago, I was a single mother counting formula cans. Today, I stand here as the Director of Community Health Initiatives, proof that one act of kindness can multiply beyond imagination. The crowd erupted in applause. Among them stood dozens of nurses from City General, wearing buttons that read, "Healthcare heroes deserve support." The hospital had been one of the first to adopt Chen Tech's revolutionary benefits program, starting a cascade of changes throughout the medical industry. Emily squirmed in Sarah's arms, reaching toward Marcus. Without hesitation, he took her, natural and comfortable in a way that would have seemed impossible a year ago. The cameras caught the moment, the billionaire CEO holding a toddler while discussing corporate responsibility. The Foundation's next phase, Marcus continued, will focus on expanding these centers nationwide. Every community deserves access to support, education, and opportunity. Every parent deserves the chance to dream bigger for their children. In the crowd, Mrs. Rodriguez wiped tears from her eyes. The former babysitter now managed the center's childcare program, her decades of experience finally receiving professional recognition and compensation. The ceremony continued with ribbon-cutting and tours, but the real magic happened in quiet moments, a single father signing up for night classes while his children played in the supervised activity room, a pregnant teenager learning about medical career opportunities, an elderly couple volunteering to teach English to immigrant families. Later, in Marcus's office high above the city, Sarah watched Emily nap on the same play mat where their worlds had first properly collided. "Sometimes I still can't believe it all started with a desperate text," she mused. Marcus looked up from his tablet, where headlines trumpeted the latest companies joining what was now called the corporate compassion movement. The text was just the catalyst. The change was waiting to happen, we just needed a reminder of our shared humanity. His phone buzzed, another corporation wanting to implement their model. The movement had grown beyond anyone's expectations. Stock prices had recovered and then soared as consumers increasingly supported companies that prioritized employee welfare. "James called," Sarah said quietly. Her ex, Emily's father, had resurfaced after the media coverage began. "He wants to be part of Emily's life." Marcus set down his tablet. "And?" "I told him he could start by supporting other single parents through the foundation. Actions speak louder than words." The sunset painted the office in warm golds and pinks. Below, the community center's lights glowed like a beacon in the Eastern District. More than a building, it was a symbol of possibility, proof that the distance between desperation and hope could be bridged by simple human connection. Catherine entered with the latest impact reports. 6 more centers breaking ground next month. Applications for the education program have tripled. And the healthcare initiative? It's becoming the new industry standard. Marcus smiled, remembering the board meeting that had nearly ended his career. Now those same board members championed their cause, having seen firsthand how corporate responsibility could coexist with profitability. "We're planning something special for the 1-year anniversary of the text," Sarah revealed. "A nationwide campaign encouraging people to help others in unexpected ways. We're calling it the Wrong Number, Right Time Initiative." Emily stirred on her play mat, reaching for toys that now included medical playsets and baby business suits, gifts from employees who saw their own children's futures in her story. The city spread out before them, no longer divided into worlds of have and have not, but connected by bridges of opportunity and understanding. The Chintec Tower's reflection caught the last rays of sun, its windows no longer a barrier but a mirror showing what was possible when business remembered its humanity. "Full circle," Marcus murmured, watching Emily play. From counting formula cans to counting lives changed. Sarah touched his arm gently. "Not full circle, this is just the beginning. Every life we touch creates new ripples, new possibilities." As if to prove her point, Marcus's phone buzzed with another text, a wrong number asking for help. He smiled, showing it to Sarah. Some mistakes were meant to happen, some connections destined to change more than just 2 lives. Together they watched their city transform, one connection at a time, proof that sometimes the greatest revolutions start not with grand plans but with simple moments of human kindness. The wrong number that had brought them together had become the right catalyst for change, turning corporate success into a force for community transformation. Emily's laughter echoed through the office, a reminder that every story of hope begins with someone choosing to help, someone choosing to care, someone choosing to see beyond the barriers that divide us. In that laughter lay the future, not just of one child or one company, but of a movement that had reminded the business world of its most valuable asset, its humanity. The sun set on another day of possibility, but the lights in the community center still glowed, guiding others toward hope, toward change, toward the understanding that sometimes the wrong number could lead to everything right.